Hello, and welcome to the next and long overdue episode of The Story of JWE, where we, yes, and you guessed it, talk about Isla, Matanceros. Now, I do apologize for the long wait. I gave myself too much to do in terms of how I upload and completely threw off my schedule. So I'm working to get it back on track, and also I do hope you enjoy the 800 subscribers special. And as a reminder, I plan on doing a PSN giveaway at 1,000 subs, which will either be two $50 PSN cards for two lucky winners or one $100 PSN card. Now, on to the video, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content.
Say to me what you want from me. Just say to me what you want from me. Check it to 10.
The island known as Isla Matanceros is the third largest and oldest island in a chain of islands known as an archipelago. This archipelago is known as Las Cinco Muertes, or the Five Deaths. Matanceros and its companion islands alongside Isla Nublar will be acquired by Engine CEO John Hammond and leased for around 99 years. Matanceros is shaped roughly like a bent triangle with flat north and south shores, a generally convex western shore, and a concave eastern one. The island has no tall mountainous remains aside from its three ancient and extinct volcanoes. However, sheer cliffs and a few steep isolated mountains are scattered across the northern and central areas of the island. It should be noted that 300 years before Engine would acquire the Five Deaths, Isla Matanceros was home to a Spanish stronghold and port used for staging treasure galleons before their return to Spain. A privateering raid was conducted by English Captain Charles Hunter from the town of Port Royal in the Jamaica colony, bringing back a score almost worth £250,000 in Danish gold, silver, and platinum. It is also rumored that the ruins Fort Matanceros can still be found on the island to this very day. Now, in JWE, as the player is being brought in to oversee the development of the islands after the fall of Jurassic World, it should also be noted that you are not the first person who was asked to come on board to take charge. As your predecessor made an attempt to kickstart the new park on Isla Tacaño, but had exhausted more funds than Cabot would have liked and was promptly dismissed from Engine. If I had to put a timestamp on it, I'd say this situation took place before 2016, maybe between October and December in 2015. Then the player would be brought in somewhere around March to June in 2016, if we were being realistic about things. It also would help if we were given dates of when this memo transcripts take place. Then again, maybe they were left like that so we could speculate when all this takes place. Maybe Frontier just wanted us to do a little work, who knows. But however, due to Isaac's backstory within the memos of this game, we are led to believe that this all takes place in the year 2018. Because that's when the game released and Fallen Kingdom was premiering in theaters. So that's what we will roll with. And after discussing the game as a whole, I'll give my opinion on the timeline and how I believe it should fit canonically. Okay, so prior to the arrival of the player, Claire had reached out to Dr. Malcolm, where he remarks that they both have a lot in common since they both had to brave and survive the dangers of the islands. Claire tells him that the Foundation has brought in someone new as the director of operations, and Malcolm tells her that he is aware because he has been in touch with the player, and Claire asks him to keep an eye on the player. Now, I believe the reason Claire asked this is because of your predecessor, who acquired quite the debt on Tacaño and obviously pushed back the plans to open Jurassic World back up to the public. So she would be worried that the player would be even more careless and ruin what would be a second chance at redemption for Claire. Malcolm, of course, planned to keep an eye on the player to ensure that caution would be exercised. I'd go as far as to say that Malcolm tried to give our predecessor advice that fell on deaf ears. This time around will be different because Malcolm knows what carelessness can lead to. Once the player is brought on board, the first stop is Matanceros, where Malcolm describes it as a perfect place to get your feet wet before diving into the deep end where the hungry things are. Once on Matanceros, you are immediately greeted by Cabot Finch, and he announced that he is in charge of public relations and crisis management. Meaning, he is here to tell you what the people want and what needs to be done to ensure their safety. A good spot for one to have if you're looking to make some financial gain, and Cabot is always looking to make financial gains. Now, he starts you off by building a hammock creation lab, getting it up and running. It is from here the player births a new species of dinosaur, a Struthiomimus. Malcolm expresses his disapproval, of course, to which Cabot says that they have learned since last time and invested more money since then as well. To which Malcolm replies, but that there will always be a next time, implying that there will always be a next time for those not willing to understand the futility in trying to control something they have no control over. Now, not long after you are introduced to the Cabot, he brings in the three main branches of the Hammond Foundation, those being science, entertainment, and security. It is up to the player at this point to choose who they want to interact with, and it is noted that equal attention needs to be given to each division when possible so people within the faction don't act out. You work with them doing a series of contracts, and it is up to you to decide which are worth doing. Just now, doing this series and what all, I recognize that I made a mistake in what I said in one of my earlier videos. I had said that the divisions give you contracts that don't make sense most of the time. While that statement is true, you have to realize that as the director of operations, it is the player's job to filter out what contracts you profit from and ones you don't. So it makes sense that you get some bullshit contracts from time to time. You just got to make sure you do the ones that you see actual profit from. So Frontier, if you're watching, I do apologize in that regard. In this situation, however, the first division leader that we will meet is Dr. Kajal Dua. Now, she is a graduate of Berkeley and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where she achieved doctorates in both archaeology and biology. Kajal was initially reluctant to accept an offer to work as a geneticist with the Hammond Foundation when they first approached her, though her desire to be at the forefront of scientific discoveries prompted her to accept. Upon rising to the position of chief geneticist, as well as the head of the Hammond Foundation Science Division, charged with cloning new dinosaurs, Dr. Dua had already established fraught relations with Security Chief George Lambert, while former Engine Chief Geneticist Dr. Henry Wu held a low opinion of her. I'll talk about some speculation on Dua and Wu's relationship in another video. Now, at this point, she wants you to release a Triceratops. But not just any kind of Triceratops, no. A Triceratops with a more complete genome. This ambition of hers is what led her to becoming the new chief geneticist, as she tries to purify the dinosaurs' genomes instead of using Henry Wu's old method of filling the gaps. This ambition of hers is looked down upon by Wu, as he mentions that he's seen her flail and fail before. Now, in my opinion, I believe he is referring to when she used to work under him and was struggling at first to find ways to create this pure genome. He also says that he'll discuss this situation with Kajal later, as he felt she should have come to him about the matter instead of the player like she should have. Wu seems to prefer a lot towards their previous relationship, but at the same time, he shows that he still holds some sway later on in the game. It's obvious Wu expects to be notified of anything in relation to the dinosaurs because he of course gave them life. So it's like he jealously guards any type of scientific breakthrough in this regard. At least that's what I'm taking away from the comment every time I hear it in the game. But after creating our first Triceratops, she asked the player to make another with a little bit more complete genome, since that we have acquired some from the excavations during our expeditions. Now, once that is completed, she thanks you for helping her start the path towards a pure genome before dismissing herself. You are then approached once more by Wu, who asks if she thinks that she can accomplish what he could not with the help of the player. This is something Wu will reflect on and experiment with by including the player in a few of his schemes later on in the game. Still, all in all, the player is making good headway with the dinosaurs, and seeing that you are approached by the head of the security division, George Lambert. Now, Lambert had always been interested in the military and security. Growing up as an only child, he longed for the structure, the adventure, and the esprit de corps that being a soldier would provide. Although he was an average student, he was an exceptional athlete and scored high on aptitude tests, which meant he was able to get his chosen occupation when he enlisted: sniper. Lambert would excel in weapons training as a marksman, as well as in stalking and tracking, skills perhaps even more important to a successful sniper. However, what Lambert loved most was the sense that he had a mission, and that he was part of something bigger and more important than himself. He also liked the bond of brotherhood he shared with his fellow soldiers. And after 2 tours in the military, Lambert chose to continue to build on his experience as a private military contractor, or PMC, in shorter terms. The modern euphemism for a mercenary, I guess. It was here that he would first come into contact with the Hammond Foundation and the Jurassic World project. Lambert quickly rose through the ranks with his combination of professionalism and dedication to his mission, which was to protect the guests, personnel, and dinosaurs of the Jurassic World facilities. Lambert wants to test the player's response to security threats, and he begins by saying that the animals are constantly probing their facilities for weaknesses, those facilities being the fences that contain them in their path. He says that he's testing their protocols and barriers because he refused to underestimate the animals, which Ian gives him praise for, as Lambert sees that the dinosaurs as both opportunity and threat. My guess is with the first failure of Jurassic World, Lambert wants to be one step ahead of the game, meaning he would have a tight eye over not just the animals being brought into the park, but the guests as well. Whenever he sees something that can be improved, that's what he does. And in this situation, it is a response to an asset out of containment. The only thing is there's no such thing, or at least not yet. Now, Lambert gets the bright idea to open the gate to one of the paddocks that was currently housing a species of dinosaur known as a Matanceros. He says it's to encourage the dinosaur to breach containment so that they may test the procedures and the personnel, which includes the player, and see if they're up to the challenge, to which Malcolm retracts his earlier praise. With the Matanceros loose and running amongst the staff, it is up to the player to provide the ACU team the information needed to act accordingly and tranquilize the creature. Kajal voices her displeasure with Lambert's tactics and keeping security sharp, saying it's not the right way to go about it. Lambert tells her to talk to him about it later as they have their hands full. So basically this man literally tells her, "Shut up, woman, not now." And he just carries on like this is normal, like they do this on a weekly basis or something. Like, I'm telling you, when it comes to the 3, I really don't think Lambert is the most rapidly type, just because of that. He's not rap tight. He's not. And you can't convince me otherwise. Anyway, the Matanceros is subdued and returned to his enclosure with no injury to staff and in relative time, thanks to the park not being fully fleshed out at the moment. While it is a job well done, Lambert admits to not fully understanding the dinosaurs, to which Malcolm adds that has always been a challenge towards what he calls the Jurassic Industrial Complex. Exploitation versus security, meaning that while securative measures are being taken in regards to the dinosaurs, it is not being taken in the same strides or greater than the effort being put into making some type of financial gain from them, as the only thing that could come from being a pioneer in paleo curation is an immense potential for profit. Now, with all that done, and before the player can fully settle in, the head of the last division approaches. He's eager to get the park up and running, and he's got a few ideas. With the player being the director of operations, of course, it needs to be run by us first. but he seems ready to do this with or without us, and his name is Isaac Clement. Now, Isaac, an only child like Lambert, always had an interest in mechanical toys, miniatures, robotics, trains, remote control vehicles, and stuff like that. Basically anything that moved. His father was an aerospace mechanic and encouraged this in young Isaac. Every birthday and holiday, Isaac's gifts were building sets and electric circuitry kits. He loved them and always wanted more. Isaac grew up in Somerville, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston, and after high school where he graduated with honors, Isaac was accepted into MIT, making his parents proud and fulfilling his dream of attending the prestigious university. He focused on a business degree and while interning for a major amusement park, caught the entertainment bug. Isaac took a break from his master's in marketing to become a tour guide and then worked behind the scenes in operations, learning everything he could about the business. Soon he was able to get a job designing rides, and this is where he blossomed. Now, for the past 3 years, Isaac has been the director of the entertainment division at Las Cinco Muertes. He is a triple threat creative business savvy, but with an engineering background that gives him unique insights into how complex systems operate. Isaac's lighthearted nature disguises someone who is completely dedicated to his work. He has a way of seeing through a problem to a logical solution, and Isaac always expects others to be as dedicated as he is to making sure the guests to the park, his guests, as he often says, have the best experience possible. Now, Isaac proposes a few things that's going to be needed to draw in said guests, amenities, and a new dinosaur to lay their eyes on. As with the others, Malcolm has expressed his concerns, saying that they shouldn't be propped up as curiosities. As the old saying goes, curiosity kills the cat. So while a new dinosaur is being added to the park, the player constructs a few amenities like fast food restaurants, clothes shops, and gift shops to give the guests something to do as the gates to Jurassic World Matanceros open to the public. The people come and marvel at the dinosaurs, and of course money is made. It is here where we meet Claire and Owen as they introduce themselves to the player, informing us of their history with Jurassic World and more importantly the dinosaurs. Around this time I would note that Kajal had a conversation with Malcolm in regards to the player. Now he addresses her sarcastically, but she goes on to say that even though he has questioned her methods in regards to her research before, that it is because of Malcolm coaching the player that her research has finally begun to progress and bear fruit. Malcolm laments it by asking if that means more dinosaurs are joining the modern world, to which Kajal corrects him and says that the dinosaurs are returning to it. Now, I'm not sure if she was too elated to catch what Malcolm's words meant, or if she was somehow implying to him that this is the right step science should be taken. Now that's all beyond me, but if I had to choose, I'd go with the former over the latter. She didn't seem too condescending in that moment, at least, from reading it. It's hard to discern whether she was taking a condescending tone or not, since it's just written form, it's not in-game dialogue. Either way, the new dinosaur Isaac has you bring to the park is released, and the public is introduced to Ceratosaurus. This, of course, raises profits and sends guest satisfactions on the rise. Isaac tells the player that this is what he wants to see when his guests come, when they visit the park, and to keep up the good work before dismissing himself. Now, with that in mind, the player continues to work on Matanceros, expanding it with guest facilities and adding more dinosaurs like Hoyangosaurus, Krytonosaurus, Dracorex, and Sinoceratops. However, while doing so, there have been a few multiple incidents that were either too small for the player to notice, or the player was too busy working on the park to pay attention. These incidents, however, didn't go unnoticed by Lambert, who addressed them to Malcolm as he believes the player might be behind them. He brings this to Malcolm's attention because he has known the player longer than the rest of the staff and could possibly give some insight into these happenings. Malcolm tells Lambert that he can assure him to the best of his knowledge, which is better than the most, much better actually, that the player has nothing to do with the going-ons of the facility where sabotage is concerned. To Ian, sabotage has always been an ongoing problem with the islands, even during his time working with Hammond or Nublar, to which Lambert tells him he can deal with outside threats, but threats from the inside might become problematic. So what I got from that conversation is that Biosyn has returned, or might have returned. At this point of the game, it hasn't been confirmed or denied, but given the history with the two companies as of now, it would seem like there is no other, there's no other, not that there's no other choice, but like there's nobody else that could be behind it. Well, while that it may seem likely, it could be a slew of other things as well. It could be a new rival faction. The thing is, the game doesn't tell us what exactly the sabotage is. Is someone trying to smuggle embryos like Nedry did? Maybe some innovative tech had gone missing only to turn up somewhere completely unlikely, somewhere it's not supposed to have been. It could also be some information regarding the dinosaurs of the staff or records that could have gone missing. Without that key detail, it is too early to tell. The only thing that we could take away from this is that trouble is definitely starting to brew. And with some time having passed on Matanceros, you are contacted by Malcolm. He believes you are ready to move on to the next island and get it up and running, which was most likely at the behest of Cabby. This next island is Isla Muerta, the island of the dead, and referred to as Site C in JWE only. However, as you prepare yourself to set up operations on this new island, someone has eyes on you and will be paying you a visit soon. Okay guys, now that's all the information on Matanceros in regards to the campaign. This is all I could piece together from what the memos gave us and what the characters said in dialogue. Honestly, I thought Muerta is where things started to go bad with Wu still doing hybrid projects and the sabotage that happens on the island, but it actually starts here on Matanceros, where it's stated that Kajal doesn't get along with Lambert all too well, and there's definitely some tension between her and Wu, almost to a point where I could see Wu trying to undermine her. Now I know sabotage from the divisions is in the game, but the question I want to ask you all, that I want to see in the comments as well, is do you think that they would be willing to throw a monkey wrench into the others' plans to derail them just because of their disagreements? And with that said, I want you all to stay tuned, as we'll be back with more the story of JWE as we continue to cover Matanceros. And this has been SKG, and I'll be checking back with you all later.